StrayAllDay.com.
Now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. What is that? That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is 3 commonalities of top performers. Before we get into this, let me remind you all that I send out a text message every single week, guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point. I call it the Monday Motivation. We also send out a daily motivation text that you can optionally choose to get. Either way, you got to be a member of my text community to get either one. It's completely free to join the text community. Just text me at my number, which is 305-384-6894. Once you text me, you tell you what your options are for getting any of our motivation messages. And again, free of charge, just to be into the community. Numbers down below in the description. Let me tell you what's also down below in the description is the link to Work on Your Game University. That is where we have opened our mastermind coaching programs. If you would like to be coached by me directly, if you want to work with me directly, if you would like to be able to talk to me on a regular basis, if you would like to be able to share with me what you are doing, where you're going, what you think might be in your way, and get help from me directly to assess where you're at, tell you exactly how we can fix it and what to do, the process for actually fixing it, all of that takes place when you are a member of Work on Your Game University. And let me tell you something else. None of it takes place if you are not a member of Work on Your Game University. So I'm making this really clear for you all. You want to work with me, there is one place to do it. It is in the university, workonyourgameuniversity.com. That link, guess what? Also down below in the description to this video, audio, whatever you are consuming. So with that out of the way, let's get into this topic, 3 commonalities of top performers. Got to give a hat tip to Dan Kennedy, who is a legend in the marketing game. He talks about a lot more than marketing in his work. And if you dives into his work, you'll see this. He's an older marketing guy. He's pretty much semi-retired to this point. And I know a lot of you don't go back to the quote-unquote old stuff. So most of you probably will never dive into him. That's okay. You can take whatever you get me saying about him, and that'll be what you know about him. But anyway, I dive into older stuff. I dive into my material. And actually, one of the points I'm going to make here today actually will go right along with that. But anyway, he's the person who planted the seed for this idea. I'm going to germinate that seed and grow it into a tree. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I've been reading a lot of Mr. Kennedy's old stuff, because he's been in the marketing game since the 70s, believe it or not. And naturally, when you consume a lot of anybody's material, you're going to end up using some of the things that you hear from them because it's affecting you subconsciously as you're consuming their material. So I'm borrowing this idea from him, and I have done this many times over the course of the history of the show. If somebody says something, or I hear something, or I get a story, anecdote, etc., and I take the point that person made, I flesh it out in my own way, and I make new material out of it. So Dan Kennedy gets credit for helping me do that with this particular episode. So he made it, as I like to say, he made it a hot line. I'm making it into a hot song. Point number 1. Topic, once again, 3 commonalities of top performers. And I don't really have to give too much background on this one because, the title pretty much says what it needs to say. This is not metaphorical. I mean, it's literally, and my explanations will go deep enough that we don't need to spend too much time on the intro. Point number 1, 3 commonalities of top performers. Domain experts who outstudy the competition. Top performers tend to be domain experts who outstudy their competition. What is a domain expert? Domain expert just means, when I say domain, I don't mean like a URL like workonyourgameuniversity.com, which you should go to. But domain means the space that you work in. So if you're a plumber, knowing everything there is to know about plumbing systems inside of homes or inside of warehouses or industrial buildings, that's domain knowledge. If you're an auto mechanic, knowing everything about what goes on under the hood of a vehicle is an example of domain knowledge. So a domain expert is a person who knows everything that there is to know, or at least they make it their business to know and learn and be up to date on everything there is to know in that particular field. So whatever field you happen to be in, if you're in the fitness field, how much are you studying the fitness space? Or are you just going out there and being a practitioner doing the work, but you're not actually learning anything new and adding to the depth of your knowledge? If you're in the sales world, how much studying are you doing on the sales game? If you're a speaker, How much studying are you doing on the speaking game, whether it's the skill of speaking, whether it's the business of speaking, whether it's what your clients and customers actually want from a speaker? How much are you staying up to date on what's going on? Or are you plugged into someone who is staying up to date so at least they can tell you what you need to know? Are you doing any of this? In my experience, and I talk to a lot of people who are professionals of what they do, and they have paychecks and business cards to prove it and websites to prove it. Most of the practitioners who I know and come across, the depth of their knowledge is whatever they learned to get to the point that they're at right now. And most practitioners spend the majority of their time practitionering. I don't even know if that's even a word, but they spend the majority of their time doing the thing and making their money and booking clients and selling their products and doing whatever it is that they're selling. But they don't spend much time, if any at all, studying and learning more about the space that they allegedly are a professional in. Now, I want to be clear. You can be a professional in something and never learn anything new at that thing and stay a professional for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. For example, in the professional sports world, where my background is from, I knew a whole lot of athletes who didn't really work on their games that much. They became good enough to get to the professional level. They got to a level at the pros that they were an adequate performer and they could hold down a job, they could hold down a position as a professional athlete, and they never really improved their game. They pretty much stayed the same player over the course of a decade-long career, never really got better, didn't get worse, but they didn't get better either. There are players who, any of you who follows a sport, you can look at your sport, the sport that you follow, and you can see players who have been pros for a long time, and they haven't really improved in their game at all from the time that they first came in. But they're still a pro. They're still there because they have enough ability that they can still, pull a paycheck for what they do professionally, but they haven't really gotten better at the game. So I'm saying that to say this. I want you to remember what the title of today's episode is. It's 3 Commonalities of Top Performers. So you can be an okay performer in a space and never get better. So these things that I'm bringing up here today are things that you need to have as an attribute if you want to be a top performer. Now, if you just want to be an okay performer, you just want to be average and you're okay with getting to a certain level and staying there and you don't really need to get better, that's completely okay. Okay, I'm not knocking you and saying that something's wrong with you there. But if you want to be a top performer, then you can't be a person who just gets to a level and stays there and is okay with it. Okay? Domain experts get better continuously because they are continuously studying how to get better. If you study anything consistently enough, eventually you're going to partake in some of it. All right, whatever it happens to be. Everybody follow what I'm saying here. So people who have domain expertise in their space, they have an extraordinary depth of knowledge in their chosen area of expertise. And let me be clear, just in case anyone doesn't understand. Knowledge means you have actually done a thing. It does not mean you just read it. So when I say they outstudy the competition, yes, they study, but then they actually apply the things that they study, because that's the only way that the consumption of information becomes actual knowledge, is you actually applying the information. Just in case anybody didn't understand, that's how things work over here in the work on your game world, at least. I don't know how it works in the college that you went to or whoever else it is that you get information from. I don't know why you're getting information from those other people, but over here, anything that you study must be applied to become knowledge. All right, you don't have knowledge just because you study something. So any of you college students listening to this, or you're a recent college graduate, you have zero knowledge. You know absolutely nothing. The only thing that you know is how to go to class and sit there and shut up and listen. But you don't really know something until you actually go out into the field and do it. And that's not a knock on you college graduates and college students. I was once a college graduate too who thought I knew something, but I realized that I knew nothing because I hadn't done anything. You don't know something until you have actually done it. So knowledge, depth of knowledge, means you have applied it, applied whatever information you have consumed, purchased, been administered to you, etc. So top competitors know a lot more, first of all, than their audiences. You better know a lot more than your audience. Otherwise, why would they pay you or need you? And they know a lot more than their competitors. Now, the questions are, how and why are these people like this? Reason is because they read, study, and learn more than their competitors do. As I just told you a couple minutes ago, many people who I know who are professionals at what they do, meaning they do a thing as their main paid occupation, do very little study of that space. They have gotten to a level where they're good enough to make money at it, and they just keep working at that level. That skill level does not increase. They just try to figure out, how can I get more clients and make more money or achieve more success with the same skill level that I have now, but they don't actually invest in developing more skill. Now, let me add another piece here. Just last week, I was at a business conference. It was a week-long conference. There are a lot of people who attend that conference, and I know this to be true because I go to a lot of conferences as an attendee, as a speaker, as a host. And there are many people who attend conferences and they consume all the information and they get all excited and they feel good about it, but they don't actually study the information, which means you are consuming it more than once, nor do they apply the information. Therefore, that information never becomes knowledge. Everybody follow what I'm saying here? So reading, studying, and learning then is applied, turned into knowledge. This is a very simple idea, but it's not always necessarily easy for anyone, but it is accessible and available to every single person who can hear my voice right now. Whether you're watching this on video, you're listening to this on audio, anybody can do this. It just requires a certain level of discipline. Anybody can read, study, and learn as much as you want about any subject that you wish, and the majority of the information that you will learn is available to you for, at the most, a relatively low price, meaning like it'll cost you less than $100 to access it. That would be like a book or maybe some type of manual documentation, something like that. You can access a ton of information for less than $100 on whatever subject you want to learn. How much does a book cost? If you read 20 books on one specific subject, you will know more than 98% of people who do that exact same thing for a living. Let me say that point again. If you read 20 books on one specific subject, you will know more than 98% of people who do that thing for a living. And let me explain to you what I mean by this. If I was to go buy 20 books on personal training, I'm not a personal trainer. I have no intention or desire to be a personal trainer. If I was to go on Amazon right now and buy 20 books on the skill of personal training, like the actual ability to do personal training. Let me see. I'm gonna look up personal trainer books on Amazon right now, and let's just see what I come up with. So personal trainer. All right, so I'm looking at these books on personal training. If I was to read 20 of these books, so let's see. They got the NASM study guide. So this is like one of the certifications to be a personal trainer. There's a book called How to Be a Personal Trainer, a Successful Personal Trainer, by a guy named Chris. There is Personal Trainer Client Logbook. Well, that's a logbook, so I won't use that one. Let's see. There's a book on that's an advertisement. There's a book called Bigger, Leaner, Stronger: The Simple Science of Building the Ultimate Male Body. There's the Year One Challenge for Women: Thinner, Leaner, and Stronger Than Ever in 12 months. I'm just reading off books that I'm seeing here on Amazon. Then that same author who wrote the Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, he has another one called Thinner, Leaner, Stronger, and this is about building an ultimate female body. There's a book called Ignite the Fire: The Secrets of Building a Successful Personal Training Career. There's Personal Trainer Definition Frame. No, that's not a book. Let's see. There's Becoming a Personal Trainer for Dummies. I'm just reading on Amazon here the books on personal training. I'm doing all this to illustrate a point. Let me see if I can find a couple more here. Many in the same books here. Okay, there's a book called The Personal Training Business Bible: How to Build a 6, then 7-Figure Fitness Business. That'd be a good book to read. Let's see. Bodybuilding Meal Prep. There's a guide and cookbook for, I just searched personal trainer on Amazon. This is all I'm seeing. Let's see. Built from Broken: A Science-Based Guide to Healing Painful Joints, Preventing Injuries, and something else. I'm not reading the rest of the title. What else we got? I'm just looking for, let me see if I can get you one more book on personal training here. So I'm looking. The Pocket Personal Trainer: 50 Gym Workouts is the name of the book. All right, so I'm just giving you those. And again, that's just searching the term personal trainer on Amazon. I didn't go deep on that or ask anybody. If I was to buy 20 of those books, or 20 total books in that vein, and read them all, I would know more about personal training, the actual act of doing it, and the business of personal training than 98% of people who are full-time personal trainers working right now in the United States of America. I believe that to be truth. Now, I'm not going to say it's a fact, because, I mean, how do you prove that you actually know more than somebody? It's not really a way of doing that. But I believe that to be a truth. And I'm telling you that to say this: you can apply what I just described to you in your industry by studying your domain more than your competitors do. And I just told you how to do it. Read 20 books on the subject. Many of you have not read 20 books on the exact subject you claim you do for a living. The thing you do for a living, you haven't read 20 books on the subject. And some of you have been in business for more than 10 years. That's 2 books a year. What are you doing? You want to be in the top of your game. This is one of the simplest things you can do. Now, again, this is an anecdotal truth that I'm stating because I know this to be true. Most people do not do any in-depth studying of anything, let alone their own professions. So when I'm referring to a depth of knowledge, I'm not talking you got to go back to school for 8 years. I'm saying 20 books, which you can consume, even get the audio versions of these books. 20 books. You can consume 20 books in like 6 weeks if you're disciplined about it. When you find books that are really good on the subject, even books that don't seem to be that good, read them more than once. There was a time when if you want to get information, you had to physically go to a library, search for the book in the library. Anybody doesn't know the library is a big building with a whole bunch of books in it. That's all. That's pretty much the whole business. A whole bunch of books. You had to search through the books shelves to find a book. They had this thing called a card catalog. I'm really dating myself right now. Some of you know what I'm talking about. They had this thing called a card catalog. So if you're looking for a certain book, you look through the card catalog. This is a physical thing that had each book was listed on like something that was similar to a 3x5 card, all in one little Rolodex type thing. And you found the book you wanted, and then it told you where to look for it. Then you had to go into the aisles of the bookshelves and find the book on the shelf and go through all the dust to find a book in the library. That's the way it used to be if you wanted to read a book. Nowadays, you don't have to get up from your fucking couch. You can pick up the Amazon app and be reading a book or listening to it, if you want to consider that reading too, within the next 5 minutes. You didn't even have to get up out of your chair. And you still aren't doing the work. Many of you still are not getting the knowledge in this area that you claim to be an expert in, you claim to be a professional in. And this is why, despite the fact that technology has made things so much easier and simpler for human beings, the same breakdown of people who become successful versus the people who remain average and or unsuccessful does not change because people are still people. Now, we can make it as easy as possible to be successful. Winners are still going to do winning things, and losers are still going to do loser things, and mediocre people are still going to do what most people do. Now, the question is, which group are you in? Nowadays, again, you can read a book. Excuse me. You can read a book while driving to and from work over the course of a couple of weeks. Put it on a faster speed if you can consume it at that speed, and look, you'll have more knowledge than most of your peers. Yet most people still don't do it. Point number two. Today's topic, once again, is the top commonalities, the three commonalities, rather, of top performers. Number two, top performers are hard workers who put in more effort than their peers. Let me define what I mean when I say hard worker. It means relative to the other people. Hard work relative to your competition. They put in more effort than their peers, more effort into their work than their peers do. So if the baseline is to make 5 sales calls a day, top performers never make 5 sales calls in a day. They make 8, they make 10, they make 15 every day consistently. Their baseline is higher than what the standard is. So whatever the standard, we don't even call it the standard. Their standard is higher than the accepted level of most of their peers. That's a better way of wording it. What is your standard? How do your standards compare to that of your peers? Now, even if you do your business solo and you're not around other people in your space that often, you got a pretty good idea of what's normal and what's accepted by those people. If you don't, you should go find out so you know what's going on, because you need to know where you stand amongst your peers. You need to know if you're slacking right now or if you're doing a lot better. If you're doing a lot better, you need to keep doing whatever it is you're doing. Now, while your host, I am a staunch supporter of the idea that hard work is not the key to success. I still believe that. Hard work is not the key to success. I have never, ever, ever said, nor will you ever hear me say, that hard work does not matter. There's a difference. Hard work is not the end all be all to your success, but it is an aspect of your success. After all, my entire brand is called literally work on your game. It's the first word in the brand. So hard work does matter, and people who work harder than their peers tend to outperform and out-earn their peers in the long run. This is true. The most important thing about the hard work that you do, regardless of how hard it is that you are doing hard work that is actually getting you where you want to go and producing or getting you close to producing your desired outcomes. That's the point of the hard work. So your hard work needs to be directed in a way that's getting you where you want to go. Biggest challenge many people have with hard work, assuming that they have the effort part taken care of, all right, is that they are flying blindly and don't have the right information or insights as to where to apply their efforts. This is the challenge that a lot of people have when it comes to hard work, is that you're not that you don't do the hard work, but you don't know where to apply the hard work. And if you don't know where to apply your hard work, then you could be working really hard, but not getting anywhere. So I talked about this in episode 1697, 3 ways to avoid grinding blindly forever and to actually have a plan. So many people don't have a plan for their hard work, but they're putting in a whole lot of effort. This is why you got to get around other people who know things that you don't know. This is the value of masterminds. This is the value of coaching. This is the value of even reading those books. I mean, if you could just start with that, you can start with reading the books. You're going to have to do more than that if you want to be at the top of your profession, but you could at least get started with that. So this is why point number 1 came before point number 2. See, you need to read up about and learn as much as you can about your area of focus, whatever it is. Then you apply effort to what you have learned. So you can see how these points start to fit together like puzzle pieces, and understand that applying effort to what you have learned may be enough to get you where you want to go, but it might not be enough to get you where you want to go as well. So don't think that just because you have read a couple books or watched some YouTube videos and then that you go to work and work hard, that means you have the formula for success. Because if that's all it took, then a whole lot of people would be really successful. Because there's a lot of people who watch YouTube and read books and consume material that costs them less than $20 a piece and still don't have much success. So let's not forget, there's more to the puzzle than this. So that's why we're only on point number 2. Let's move on to point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is the commonalities, 3 commonalities of top performers. Number 3, fewer delusions and fantasies. Instead, focus on accurate thinking and practical behavior. Let me read that point again, this sentence again. So this is the one that I think many of you may not have ever considered. So I think most of you consider the concept of having more knowledge and doing more study. That was point number 1. Hard work, all of you understand that. That was point number 2. This one, fewer delusions and fantasies. Instead, they are focused on, high performers that is, focused on accurate thinking and practical behavior. This is another point that refers back to what we discussed in point number 1. See, you need to know what is accurately true and also practically makes sense about your efforts in your area of expertise. What is accurately true? And the only way you know something is accurately true is it needs to be applied in some way, shape, or form. Now, you can trust the author, whoever wrote the book that you read. You can ask other people in your space, hey, have you applied this? What do you think about this? Have you seen this to work? Maybe you have the experience yourself. Hopefully you do. You got to know what's accurately true. And also you have to decide, based on what is accurately true, what makes practical sense for you and your efforts in this area of expertise. Because just because something is accurately true doesn't mean you need to be doing it. Might be accurately true that this person over here is doing ABC thing in their business. And I know that it's accurately true because they told me and they showed me and I see that they're doing it, so I can verify that what they're saying is the truth. Does not mean I need to go do it. So you need to know what practically makes sense for you and your efforts. This is where help from other people, being around other individuals who know things that you don't know, who can see things that you can't see, have experience that you don't have, can help you so that you are not running around trying a bunch of different things, but not quite sure what's going to work versus what's not going to work. And you don't use up a lot of your most valuable resource, your time, trying to figure it out. So if you work really hard, actually, let me back up. No, we're here. If you work really hard and really long based on inaccurate information, this is something that a lot of people do, it will only lead to frustration. How many people right now you feel frustrated in your work because you've been working really hard for a significant amount of time, but the hard work that you're doing is not producing the results or even getting you close to the results that you want? The reason that's happening is because your information is inaccurate. And the reason your information is inaccurate is because you got it from a non-verified source. The non-verified source is usually yourself. You just don't know what you don't know. So we call this unconscious incompetence. You are incompetent and you are unconscious of the fact that you're incompetent because you have hired you've hired an incompetent person. That's you. You hired an incompetent person to be in charge of the strategy. And if you don't know what you're doing and you're in charge of the strategy, well, what do you think is going to happen? This is why, again, leverage other people, folks. There are 8 billion people on the planet for a reason. Why would you limit yourself to just one? See, what is accurately true about where you are? This is a question you got to ask yourself. What's not accurate, objectively true about where you are right now? What's also true about where you're going? And what efforts are producing for you right now? You need to know the answers to these questions. What efforts are producing for you? Those are ones you should be tripling down on. You need straight, black and white, accurate answers to these questions, not wishes and hopes. And again, I speak to a lot of people, and when I ask people these types of questions, they tell me their wishes and their hopes, their desires, what they want to happen. But that's usually not what I'm asking. I want to know what is happening. And there's usually a gap between what is happening and what we want to happen. That's completely okay. All right, the gap between what is and what you want, we usually call those goals. And we build a roadmap in reverse to make that happen. All right, that's the game plan, that's the strategy. And we build a mechanism that helps us get there. We call that a system. And we make sure everything works the way it's supposed to along the way. We call that accountability. And the ongoing thing that makes this continue to work, because this is not as easy as it sounds, it's called mindset. That is the framework of what we do here at Work on Your Game University, in case anybody didn't know. This is the value of a coach. This is the value of a mastermind group, so that you are not deluding yourself about what's accurately true. And the problem is, many people are too arrogant to accept that they don't know everything that needs to be known about the thing that they're doing. And if you can't get past your own arrogance of telling yourself that, hey, I got this all figured out, when your results are saying the opposite of that. Talk about this in episode 2434. Lazy, stupid, or arrogant. Which one are you? If you can't get past this, you're going to keep running into the same problems over and over again. Many people are too arrogant to see everything that's true about themselves in their current process. Or they make the dumb mistake of seeking feedback from people who are unqualified to give it. So you're getting feedback from people who are unqualified to tell you something that will make you maybe a little bit uncomfortable. So you shouldn't accept feedback that makes you feel good from someone who is unqualified to tell you something that would not have you feeling good. So if you're asking for feedback from someone who's only going to tell you something that appeases you because that's their personality and that's the relationship that you have with that person, well, their feedback is not really worth much because they don't have a choice but to tell you one thing. They don't have any options. Now, somebody who has the option to tell you something that would make you uncomfortable, that's the person you should be asking for feedback from, because they can tell you the truth. Unfortunately, again, many people don't have the internal fortitude to accept that kind of feedback from those kind of people. So they rather hear it from somebody who's going to tell you what makes you feel good. Problem is, things that make you feel good don't help you do good. Often, not every time, but often that's the case, especially in this context when we're talking about growth. Let's recap today's class, which says 3 commonalities of top performers. Point number 1, domain experts who outstudy the competition. All right, these are people who have an extraordinary depth of knowledge in their chosen area of expertise. They know more than their audience because they read, study, and learn more. This is a very simple concept. Back in the days, if you wanted to read a book, you had to go to the library and check it out, or to a bookstore and go find it. Nowadays, you can get it on your phone without actually moving from the exact spot that you are on right now. You get access to the book and start reading it within the next 30 seconds. Despite this, the same breakdown of the amount of people who become successful versus the amount of people who remain mediocre and the amount of people who are utter failures has not changed at all, despite all the advances we have in technology. You know why? Because technology is not the key to your success. Human mindset is the key to success. The mindsets have not changed, even though the technology has. Point number 2, hard workers who put more effort into their work than their peers. Now, while I'm a staunch supporter of the idea that hard work is not the key to success, I never said that hard work doesn't matter. Hard work absolutely matters. I mean, this whole show is called Work on Your Game. So you want to make sure that your hard work is pointing you in a direction of where you actually want to go, which means you need to have a clear game plan, a clear strategy. Often people think they have a clear game plan and strategy. If you're not sure, or if you think you have a clear game plan and strategy, let's look at your results and let's see, is it producing the outcome that you said it would? If it is, then yes, you have a clear game plan and strategy, maybe. And if not, then we know that you don't have a good game plan or a good strategy, and you probably should do something about that. Number 3, fewer delusions and fantasies. Instead, focus on accurate thinking and practical behavior. You need to know what is accurately true and practically makes sense for you in your particular areas. If you work really hard and long based on inaccurate information, you will be frustrated because you put in all that effort, but you're not getting the results you want. And this is usually because you have a unclear thinking process. Good news is this can be fixed when you do something like join a mastermind or get yourself a coach, there's reasons why these things exist so that people are not flying blindly and trying to figure out everything on their own. There are 8 billion people on the planet. Why would you limit yourself to the brains of one unqualified individual known as yourself? Let's just be honest with what it is. All that said, folks, text me so you're getting my Monday motivation free of charge every week straight to your phone. You also have the option of getting the daily motivation. My number is 305-384-6894. Also, Work on Your Game University. That is where I do all my coaching. Only place you can work with me directly and join my mastermind is at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Link down below in the description. Work on your game. Dre, all